Brian here with Guitars, Whiskey, and Golf. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as we always say. Welcome back to my bourbon laboratory, also known as my basement. So today we've got a real interesting bourbon for you to evaluate. It's an interesting one because I think a lot of this comes down to, on this particular bottle, the value proposition. So let's get into this. So we've got NULU finished in French oak. This is made by Prohibition Craft Spirits. That's the parent company. They're currently sourcing their whiskey from MGP, also known now as Ross and Squibb, as we all know. So it says right on the bottle, which I love, the transparency, that not only does it say distilled in Indiana, they actually say this is an MGP sourced product. So, which, does not bother me. MGP makes some of the most fantastic bourbons, and I'm a particular fan of MGP Ryes. I think overall, they source for many, many different whiskey companies. They basically distill product based on the recipe or the mash bill that a particular company is looking for, and a flavor profile that they're looking for. This one is 75% corn, 21% rye. So it's got a decent amount of rye in it. I wouldn't call it an ultra high rye. It's not into the 35% rye, but it's got enough rye content to influence the flavor in a significant way, in my opinion. We'll get more into that more as we talk through it. So, interesting bottle. It's 106 proof, very nice proof point. Total age on it is about 6 years. And like I said, it is finished in French oak. So, French oak definitely imparts different characteristics than standard American white oak. So we'll get into some of the things that I'm picking up off of this bourbon that are a little bit different. So getting into the nose. First of all, the nose is very spicy, but there's also an underlying maple syrup thread through it. So it's funny, I've got a bottle of maple syrup upstairs in my refrigerator that is spiced with some cayenne pepper. So it's like spicy maple syrup. And I'd almost kind of say that that's kind of what it's reminding me of. It's got a sweetness, a caramel, maple, sugar element to it, but it's also quite spicy on the nose. And by spice, I mean peppery, like cayenne almost. Let's get into the taste. Yeah, so that translates onto the palate. It's a spicy palate. I keep saying, and I'll stick with this. There's a cayenne pepper aspect to this, but it's also got a nice sweetness. The French oak, definitely is kind of enveloping the overall palate. So there's a lot of oakiness to it, a lot of kind of cayenne pepper. Now, color me crazy on this, but I'm also getting like a vague sarsaparilla or root beer aspect to this, which is a pretty unusual note for me. I don't normally pick that up, but definitely some pepperiness, a lot of oak. Like I said, a touch of that kind of sarsaparilla, root beer aspect to it. Interesting. I mean, it's very different, in my opinion. It punches with a lot of flavor. It's not an ultra smooth bourbon, and with that kind of peppery cayenne edge to it. It's very delicious. It's got a very nice oily mouthfeel. Like as I'm looking at this, the legs on it are very, very pronounced. So it's a pretty viscous, oily mouthfeel. There's also a touch of dried tobacco coming off of this. So, this is a fairly complex bourbon with nice aromas. It brings some heat. It brings a little sweetness, some unusual flavor components, like I said, with the sarsaparilla or root beer, a little tobacco. So the question for me is, do I like this enough to buy it again? I paid $85 for it. So, that is a decent size price tag, as we all know. We all have different budgets. Some may say, hey, I dropped $85 on a bottle of bourbon all day long. Other people may say, hell no, I've got to love it before I'm going to drop $85 on a bottle. So I love sampling different types of whiskeys, ryes, bourbons, scotches. So I love going out and just trying things. And I did not have any NULU in my collection. And as a matter of fact, I almost never see NULU in my area. But I did happen into a liquor store called the Big Liquor Warehouse in Aurora, Colorado, and found that they had a selection of NULU. So I was excited to pick it up, even at the $85 price point. This is unique. It's very unique. Like I said, it's got multiple layers of flavor. Will I buy it again? Maybe not. I might lean more towards the Lucky 7 Frenchman, which is also a bourbon whiskey finished in French oak. I'm a huge fan of Lucky 7. Back on my other shelf over there, I've got the Proprietor 14. I've also got a bottle of the Jokester off on my other shelves over there. So big fan, and the Frenchman I think is outstanding. So I might lean towards the Frenchman from Lucky 7, which is a very, very kind of similar product in a similar price range. But you know what? I'm only just now beginning to get into this one. And as we know, I don't know about you, but from day to day, my palate changes a lot. Sometimes I'll sip on a whiskey and love it. A week later, I'll go back to it and I'll be like, what did I love about that? And then 2 months later, I go back to it and I love it again. So I don't know if you're like me, but my palate is kind of all over the map. It does kind of change. And so, I'm enjoying this. I'm not upset that I got it. I think it's a delicious bourbon. I just don't know if it's quite hitting the palate that maybe I'm looking for, and like that I found on, say, like the Lucky 7 Frenchman that I might prefer a little bit more. But again, I want to get into this bottle a little bit more, drink it down a little bit more, have it air out a little bit, and see how it develops, because I can't tell you how many bourbons I've had where over time it has changed in character, and I've fallen in love with it over time. So with that, I'll leave you with thanks for joining Guitars, Whiskey, and Golf. I think this is a very, very good bourbon. At $85 though, it just depends on whether the French oak is something that imparts flavors that you enjoy personally. I think if you've tried various French oak bourbons and you do really like them, then by all means jump all over this and you won't be disappointed. If you're not necessarily familiar with French oaks, you might try to find this out in a bar and give it a taste. Or if you have a buddy that has it, get a taste of it somewhere. And there are other options out there that you might want to explore. Like I said, the Lucky 7 Frenchman, for example. So with that, I'll leave you with thanks for joining Guitars, Whiskey, and Golf. Really appreciate your support. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Take care, everyone.